I'm not sure if this message will reach you or not, but if it does, I hope it reaches you in its entirety. Honestly, I don't know if I'll be able to finish it or if I'll even have the time. So let me start quickly because there's no time left. My name is Adam. I'm 30 years old. What matters is that you read this message and understand what happened to me. All my life, I've been someone who doesn't dream. No, don't be surprised. I've never dreamed. Not a bad dream, not a good dream. I always used to ask myself, why don't I dream? I would hear my friends in school talking about how they saw a ghost or how they had different kinds of dreams. When they asked me, I would tell them, I don't dream. So during that time, I asked my mom, why don't I dream? But the truth is, she didn't know the answer either. All she said was that dreams are something that come on their own, and none of us have control over them. I didn't understand her words back then. When I grew up a bit and entered high school, my friends' dreams started taking a different shape. Some would dream about someone they liked, and the next day they'd tell us about it. Others would dream about driving a car or things like that. Honestly, during that time, I was dying to dream, but still I didn't. I searched in books and on many websites to understand how a person can dream. They say that dreams are just trapped thoughts in the dreamer's mind. Thoughts that the conscious mind might not know about, but the subconscious is aware of. For example, you might meet someone every day in your life, greet them and smile at them, but deep down, there's nothing harmful in you towards them. However, the truth is, your subconscious might be portraying something completely different. Maybe every day in your dreams, you're attacking or even killing that person, and you can't stand them. There's also a theory that sometimes dreams stem from things a person needs in reality, but can't achieve. Like someone dreaming about a car they can't afford. Their subconscious portrays them buying the car and driving it around. There are also theories that say dreams can be an escape from the past or sometimes the past itself chasing you. Welcome to our channel. Before to start, make sure you are subscribed and leave a comment below. Tell us what scared you the most. Today's story also inspired by real events L. A very strong start, so let's see how it continues and what it says. Honestly, there was a lot of talk, but the consensus was on the sentence my mom told me a long time ago, which was simply that no one can control dreams. I tried to apply a theory and kept telling myself before sleeping, imagine yourself in a car, imagine yourself in a car. But still, I didn't dream about anything that day. Clearly, my subconscious was smarter than me, as it knew I didn't even like cars. Anyway, I got through that period, and I still wasn't dreaming. I stopped searching about it, and when I graduated and started working at the age of 25, everything changed. I was on vacation from work and traveled to change the scenery at our home beside the beach. Two of my old friends, Sam and Leo, were with me. We spent a nice day, and at the end of the evening, I went to sleep. That night was the first time I ever dreamed in my entire life. That night, I saw myself standing in the middle of an apartment I didn't recognize. I looked around and didn't find anything. The apartment was empty, just the floor. Suddenly, I heard someone screaming. I waited a bit until I heard the sound coming from upstairs. The apartment had 2 floors. I ran up the stairs quickly and entered the room where the sound was coming from. But then, I saw Sam and Leo both sitting there, each tied to a chair, their heads hanging down and blood covering the floor. I woke up from the dream, terrified, and quickly ran to check on Sam and Leo. But thankfully, they were fine. I didn't tell anyone about the dream, even though they noticed something was off and asked me a lot, but I still didn't say anything. We finished the vacation and went back, but that dream stayed stuck in my mind. I didn't see anything else for more than a week until I had the second dream. I was standing in a house and it was dark. Then I saw someone I knew but couldn't remember their name. In the dream, I saw them entering through the door and then closing it behind them. After that, they went toward the living room. At that moment, I saw someone whose face wasn't clear walking behind them and then stabbing them in the back with a knife. The person fell to the ground, and the man who killed them left and ran away. After I woke up, I tried hard to remember the name of that person, but even their face started fading from my memory gradually. As usual, there was no one to tell about the dream, so I brushed it off, and over time, I went back to my normal life at work until I completely forgot about the dream. But after about a year, I had a new dream. In the third dream, I was in the street driving my car, going normally on my way. I kept driving until my phone rang. I looked to the side to pick it up, and at that moment I realized it was my mom calling. I opened the phone to answer her, but as soon as I turned my face toward the road, I saw someone crossing in front of me. I hit the brakes hard, but unfortunately I didn't make it in time. I hit the person, and they flew into the air and fell dead. I woke up from the dream upset. I wanted to see the face of the person I hit, but as usual, I couldn't make out any details. This was the only dream that stayed with me for about a month. Every now and then, I would see it replaying in my mind like a TV scene, and each time I tried to imagine the person's face, but I couldn't. After a month, I forgot the dream and went back to my life. Another year passed, and I didn't have any other dreams during that time until suddenly I had the fourth dream. I was standing on a train, specifically in the part between the cars, and there was a man standing with his back to me, facing the train door. There was another person I didn't know, but they were crying and begging the man with his back to me, pleading with him to let them go. From the other person's words, it was clear that he was refusing. Suddenly, the man turned his face and jumped off the train. I ran quickly towards the door and bumped into the shoulder of the person standing there. When I looked out the door, all I saw was blood. I hid my face quickly, but after a few seconds, when I turned around, there was no one beside me. I woke up to the sound of the train whistle in my ears. I was sweating terribly and my breath was short and labored. I sat on the bed trying to understand what was happening to me. I had never dreamed like this before. All my dreams were like this. I couldn't forget this dream at all. But not much time passed, only a week, and I had the fifth dream. Honestly, I won't tell you about it now. I'll leave it for the end. But let me just say that it was the most horrifying dream of them all. In short, it was the dream that turned my life upside down, and since then, I haven't been the same. This is because in the fifth dream, I knew the victim and the killer, but I didn't know the timing of the crime. After that dream, the dream stopped. I didn't dream again until the disaster happened. I was at work that day when I found Sam talking to me saying, "I'm fine, how are you?" "Oh, of course, who else would be there?" "All right, we'll meet at what time?" "Sounds good, I'll come over." I hung up, feeling happy. It had been a long time since we all got together. Everyone had been busy with their own lives, and whenever we did manage to meet, it was always special. Anyway, I finished work that day and went home. At around 9:30 p.m., I headed to Mark's house. He lived in a compound right across from the one I lived in, so it didn't take long to get there. I parked my car in front of his house and got out. As I did, my eyes caught the house next to Mark's. It was lit up, and through the window I could see what looked like workers inside. I didn't pay much attention and walked toward Mark's house. From outside, I could see my friends sitting inside, my colleagues and buddies. I rang the doorbell, but the music was loud so they didn't hear me. I peeked through the window and waved at them. Leo noticed and came to open the door. "Hey, bro," Leo said. "The noise is so loud, no one can hear you. You have to wave to get our attention." We walked into the living room, and I closed the door behind us. I found everyone sitting there. I pulled up a chair and sat down next to them. I noticed Sia, one of the people sitting there, looking at me with a smile. "Hey, Asim, no one's seen you in a while," she said jokingly. "Sorry, I've been swamped with work. You know how it is. Barely finishing work and coming home too exhausted to move. And you're the one who's been disappearing too. I only see Sam, Leo, and Mark every now and then. Sometimes I run into Lena, and I ask about you. They say you're around, but you never reach out." We laughed and reminisced about our college days, which we always did whenever we got together. We played music, danced, and had a great time. But at some point, I noticed Sam and Leo were missing. I asked Mark where they were, and he said they might have gone outside to talk because of the noise. I went out to check, but they weren't there. I looked at the house next to Mark's and noticed the lights were off. The house to the left was also dark. I was puzzled by their sudden disappearance, but went back inside and sat with the others. About an hour passed, and they still hadn't returned. I started to worry and called Sam, but his phone was off. I tried Leo, but he didn't answer either. I began to panic and put my phone back in my pocket, telling Mark, "Where did guys go?" "Their phones are off and they're not answering." Momin said, "Relax, they're probably sitting in the car or somewhere calming down. You know how they are." I replied, "What car?" And even if that's the case, Leo would have answered me by now. Sia then said, "Stay here." The gathering will be boring without you. But I insisted, no, I'm leaving. As I got up to say goodbye, my phone rang. I took it out of my pocket and saw it was Leo finally calling. I answered, hey, where are you guys? We've been waiting forever. At that moment, I heard heavy breathing on the other end. I signaled for everyone to quiet down and turn down the music. I said, Leo, are you okay? But instead of Leo, I heard a voice say, who is this? Hello? Hello? The call dropped. I quickly realized the voice had an echo, as if the person was in an empty space. Suddenly, the dream I had years ago flashed through my mind. I heard Mark asking, who was that on the phone? Leo didn't answer. I rushed outside and looked around. My eyes fell on the house to the right, and I saw its door was open. The dream was replaying in my mind rapidly, mixed with the echo from the phone call. Without thinking, I found myself running toward the house with Mark, Sia, following me. I entered the house and stopped in the middle of the living room. It was exactly like in the dream. Empty, just the floor. I looked for the stairs leading upstairs, walking with a sense of dread, knowing what I was about to see. When I reached the top, I found Sam and Leo, each sitting on a chair, their heads hanging down and blood covering the floor. I approached them and noticed Leo's phone on the ground in front of him. I picked it up, and at that moment I heard Mark, Sia behind me at the bedroom door. She screamed. Mark came closer and asked, who did this to them? I looked up, still sitting on the floor, and said, call the police, quickly. Mark took out his phone and called the police. They arrived shortly after. The officers stood outside the house questioning us, while the forensic team worked inside, collecting fingerprints and examining the scene. We told the officer everything that had happened from the beginning of the day until we discovered the bodies. We were all devastated by what we had seen. Because of this, the officer let us go, promising to contact us the next day to continue the interrogation. Sam and Leo's families were there, and their questioning was even harder than the police's. By the time we finished talking, I left and went home, unable to process what had happened. Sam and Leo were both killed. Who killed them, and why? Exhausted and in tears, I fell asleep, not knowing how long I slept. I woke up to a call from Mark. Hey, Mark, what's up? I asked. What should I do? He replied. All right, come to me. I got up and went to the shower, but the killer's words kept echoing in my mind. Sam and Leo are gone now. The sound of his breathing was haunting. As I reviewed everything that had happened, I felt as if he was standing behind me, breathing down my neck. I was terrified, so I quickly got out of the shower, got dressed, and went downstairs. I picked up Mark and we went to the officer. After answering a few questions, we left. A couple of days passed, and there was still no new information about Sam and Leo's case. But I started to calm down and regain my composure. I had to go back to work, but on the fourth day, I was surprised by a call from Mark. Mark, what's going on? I asked. As soon as he spoke, I remembered the second dream. The person I knew in the dream but couldn't remember his name. It was Sam's father, Mr. Jack, period. I felt a chill run through me, realizing this wasn't a coincidence. This was a chain of events, and it wasn't just about Sam and Leo. From that moment, I started thinking about the third and fourth dreams. In the first two dreams, I was just an observer, but in the third dream, I was the killer. What did that mean? Was I going to kill someone? Who and why? This question had no answer, or maybe I was too afraid to find out. I was in the middle of a murder case, and I might be the killer. My life started to fall apart. I couldn't focus at work and kept trying to recall the third dream, but I couldn't remember the road I was driving on or who I had hit. I even stopped driving my car during that time, and thankfully nothing happened. But the police still hadn't identified the killer in the two murders. When my mom tried to get me out of the gloomy state I was in and suggested I go to our home beside the beach to change the scenery, I didn't want to go. But she insisted, and in the end, I gave in and went. I didn't take my car and rented one instead to get there. A couple of days passed, and on the third day, I was sitting on the couch scrolling through Facebook when suddenly a shocking news headline appeared. The news was about an accident that had happened on the road, resulting in the death of one person. I quickly clicked on the link and saw a picture of the victim. I knew this person, but where had I seen him before? I couldn't remember. I kept thinking until I saw a link to a video of the accident. I opened the video, ignoring the many warnings that popped up, and saw the exact scene from my dream. The man was trying to cross the road when suddenly, a car appeared out of nowhere, speeding toward him. The car hit him, and he flew into the air before falling to the ground, lifeless. I put my phone down and leaned back, trying to remember where I had seen this man before. Unfortunately, I drifted off to sleep. I dreamt of Sam, Leo, and me in the car just after leaving university. We had just finished our last exam, and Leo said, "I'm not in the mood to go home. What do you guys want to do?" Sam, who was sitting next to him, said, "Well, what do you want us to do? Should we go to the home beside the beach or something?" I suddenly said, "Why don't we go on a trip? We can leave tonight, pack some clothes, and stay for a few days." We agreed, but before confirming, I took out my phone to call my mom. If she asked what I was doing, I would tell her. She needed to know where I was. As I was about to call, Leo snatched the phone from my hand and said, "I'll call her when we get there." I got annoyed and said, "Leo, give me the phone. Stop messing around." We argued for a while, but in the end, Leo gave in. About an hour later, we had passed the city, even though we hadn't planned to leave until later that night. I said, "Give me the phone, Leo. We've left the city gates." He kept saying, "No, I won't let you call her until we get there." I said, "Come on, my mom doesn't like being kept in the dark. She might get mad and make me come back." The phone was ringing on the dashboard and I saw my mom's name on the screen. I got angry and said, "Give me the damn phone so I can answer." Leo refused and Sam reached over to grab the phone, but Leo pulled it away and it fell into the footwell. I said, "Guys, the phone's not going to work like this. Look for it." We searched under the seats but couldn't find it. Leo leaned down to look again and Sam shone a flashlight for him. After about a minute, they both came up and Leo handed me the phone. But at that moment, Sam shouted, "Leo, watch out!" I woke up in a panic, adjusting my position. It was the first time I had dreamt of the accident. Years had passed, and I had forgotten about it. But why had I dreamt of it now? Was everything happening because of this? Sam, Leo, Sam's father, and the man who died. Yes, I remembered now. The man had been a witness in the case, so the other two dreams would come true as well. But who was behind all this, and how had they accessed my dreams? Something felt terribly wrong. I realized I couldn't stay alone anymore. I was in grave danger. Something felt terribly wrong. I realized I couldn't stay alone anymore. I was in grave danger. My life was at risk, and since Sam and Leo had been killed, it was likely my turn next. I got dressed, gathered my things, and called a car to take me back to the city. The whole way, I kept thinking about the person who had been killed in the fourth dream. Who was he? When I got to city, I called Mark and asked him to meet me. About an hour later, we met, and I told him what had happened during the accident. He agreed with me that what was happening was connected to the accident and that the killer was seeking revenge. But who was it? He didn't have an answer. Honestly, I didn't agree with his theory and told him I could protect myself, but I needed to know who the fourth victim was. When I said that, he told me it was definitely someone connected to the accident, so I had to dig into what had happened back then to find him. He was right. After the accident, we had completely distanced ourselves from the situation, and the only ones who had followed up on it were Sam's father and Leo's father. Since Sam's father had died, I needed to reach out to Leo's father, Mr. Jack. I headed to Leo's house, rang the doorbell, and the maid answered. I asked to speak to Mr. Leo. She let me in and went to inform him. When I saw him, I felt like he had aged 20 years. His grief was evident. I offered my condolences again, and then I said, "I figured out why this is happening." He perked up at my words and asked, "Why is this happening?" I told him, Sam and Leo were killed by someone connected to the accident that happened years ago. I didn't mention the dreams, but I took out my phone, opened the link to the accident, and showed him the picture of the victim. He looked at the photo and his face showed shock. As he stared at it, I said, "Isn't this the man who witnessed us sitting at the cafe the day of the accident?" He nodded, confirming it was him. "Yes, he died 2 days ago, and now there's another person who's going to die. Who's next?" "That's what I came to find out from you," I said. He looked confused. What do you mean? I explained. After the accident, you all distanced yourselves from the situation, and none of us knew how the case ended. From that day until now, we haven't opened the topic again. Only you and Sam's father, they knew what happened and what you did. Please tell me so we can stop this before more people die. He sighed and said, after the accident, Leo called me and told me what happened. I contacted Sam's father because he was our lawyer, as you know, and his son was also involved. The first thing he told me was that no one could know Leo was the one driving. And of course, no one could know you had left the city that night. We didn't know if anyone had seen you or not. So Sam's father asked me to send a driver from my company to take the car from Leo and bring it back. If they checked the gate cameras, they wouldn't be able to tell who was driving because the car's windows were tinted and dark. Sam's father insisted the driver take the car and return it, and at the gate, he should roll down the window to prove he was the one driving. He also asked the driver to stop at several places before returning to prove the car was with him at the time of the accident. But Henry had already filed a report with the car's license plate, and everything was arranged. The driver took the blame that night instead of you. Who was the driver, I asked. A guy who worked at the company. He got a sentence of 6 months or a year, I don't remember exactly, but we compensated him with a lot of money. Sam's father also gave him money. Where is he now? I don't know. I haven't heard from him since then. Can I see his picture? How am I supposed to get his picture now? And why do you want to see it? This driver's life is in danger. Try to find his picture. It must be in his CV. Wait a second, I'll try to find it for you. He took his phone and made a call. After a while, he came back and said, I asked the office to look for his CV, as you said. If they find the picture, they'll send it. Let's hope they find it. We sat in silence for about 15 minutes, the anxiety evident on Mr. Henry's face. He jumped when his phone rang. He answered it, and after hanging up, he said, They found it and sent it to me on WhatsApp. I quickly stood up and stood next to him as he opened the picture on his phone. The moment I saw it, I said, He's the one who's going to die. He looked at me in shock and asked, How did you know? It doesn't matter now. What's his address? He looked at his phone again and said, All his details are in the CV. Here. I took his phone, looked at the address and handed it back to him. I stood up, left without caring that he was calling after me, and went home. I grabbed my car keys and quickly headed out. The whole way I kept thinking about one thing. The fourth dream, it was on the train. The driver, Jacob, lived in a rural area, so to get to his village, you had to take either a microbus or a train. At that moment, I heard the whistle of a train passing by on my right. On the other side, I wondered, are you dead, Jacob, or are you still alive? A question I wouldn't be able to answer until I reached his village. I felt like I was racing against the train next to me. After about 2.5 hours, I arrived. I entered the village and asked for his address. After navigating many alleys, I finally reached his house. I knocked on the door, and a little girl answered. Hi, sweetie. Is Jacob here? Dad's not here. Is your mom here? Yes, she's here. Don't open the door alone, Michelle, her mother called out. Yes, sir. Can I help you? I was asking about Mr. Jacob. Is he here? Jacob? May he rest in peace. He died 3 years ago. 3 years ago? How did he die? He was hit by a train on his way home. I felt like I couldn't stand anymore. The whole world was spinning around me. Are you okay, sir? Yes, I'm fine. You don't know what happened before he died. What happened before he died? What do you mean? How did he fall? What happened? Honestly, no one knows. No one saw him fall. But why did you come here? No reason. I knew him from a long time ago and had some work for him. I came all this way to tell him about it. Honestly, I lost his number and had no other way to reach him. Oh, I see. Well, he's gone now. May he rest in peace. I'm sorry, but can you just tell me who you are and why you're asking about Jacob after all these years? Jacob took the blame for others, right? I didn't answer her, and then she said, How did you know? Are you one of them? Yes, I'm one of them. Listen, I told you the other two are dead. I came to save your husband, but it seems he died before them, and I'm going to die at any moment too. Please, if you know anything, tell me. She opened the door again after she was about to close it in my face and looked at me. I don't know anything. All I know is that before he died, Jacob wasn't himself. He kept having nightmares and bad dreams. A few days before he died, he told me himself that his end was near and that his reckoning would be harsh because he defended the wrongdoer and the killer. That's all I know. Now please leave, and I hope you don't come here again. She finished her sentence, kicked me out, and closed the door in my face. I walked down the stairs thinking about what she had said. I realized fate had played with Jacob's dreams, just as it had played with mine. But how could the killer make us see the end he had planned? A question with no answer except from him. And if I met him, the answer wouldn't matter because it would be the last moment of my life. I went back home and locked myself in my room, sitting and thinking about everything that had happened. As I drifted off, I saw the fifth dream again. I was standing in the middle of my room, and it was dark except for a faint light coming from the window. I was standing there, and in front of me was a rope hanging from the ceiling. Calmly, I walked toward my desk, grabbed the chair, and placed it under the rope. Then I stood on the chair, grabbed the rope, and put it around my neck. In front of me stood the girl we had hit in the accident, smiling. I smiled back at her and shook my head. At that moment, I kicked the chair, and the rope tightened around my neck. I woke up coughing violently, my hands instinctively going to my neck to make sure there was no rope around it. But this time, I saw her. She was standing in the middle of the room, smiling the same smile. I smiled back at her and shook my head. I knew she was happy with me now because I had done what she wanted. I had avenged her for everything that had been done to her. Yes, I was the one who killed Sam and Leo, and I was also the one who killed Sam's father and Jacob. They had to be held accountable. They had to pay for what they had done. Sam and Leo had been reckless, taking an innocent life and not even bothering to try to save her. All they cared about was saving themselves. Sam's father didn't even think about upholding the law he had sworn to uphold. He only thought about saving his son at the expense of justice. And Leo was a false witness. He took the money. As for Jacob, he was punished for something he didn't do, and his actions allowed the real culprit to escape punishment. All of this, again, for money. Of course, you want to know how I killed them. I'll tell you, after the accident, I followed the case and found out that Jacob was the one who would take the blame that night. It didn't matter to me at first because I was just like them. But then I started seeing her in my dreams. I tried to ignore it, but the nightmares were terrifying, and I couldn't take it anymore. Her only condition was that I deliver justice, just as it had been denied to her. I started with Jacob because he was the reason we got out of the case. Then it was Leo's turn, the witness who had lied and said we were at the cafe the day of the accident. He died before I went to the chalet with Sam and Leo. Then it was the turn of the real killers. I took advantage of the opportunity when Mark invited us over and decided to carry out my plan that day. Before going to Mark's house, I had prepared everything. I gave them drugs and they didn't suspect a thing. They went outside to the car to take them, but in reality, it was a sedative. When I went out under the pretext of looking for them, I dragged them from the car and took them to the other house. There, I finished them off. I went back and Leo's phone was with me. The call was fake. When I pretended to run to the house, I called my own phone and opened the call so everything would seem normal. Then I quickly went upstairs and left the phone in front of Leo. As for Sam's father, he was the devil who had planned everything from the beginning, so he had to face his punishment. Of course, you'll say I was also involved with them. You're right, I was indeed their accomplice, and that's why I'll face the same fate as them. This was the note Justin wrote before he committed suicide. When we looked into Justin's background, we discovered from his friends that he had always been interested in the topic of dreams since he was a child. They thought it was just normal curiosity, but it evolved into an obsession with the third eye, astral projection, and similar topics. After his mother's death, which caused him severe psychological distress to the point where he imagined she was still alive, the situation worsened. Then the accident happened, and his friends said he started talking about the girl who had died in the accident, saying she would take revenge on all of them and that they had to pay the price. Evidence of this was that the driver, Jacob, and the cafe owner, Leo, had both died. but under normal circumstances, not in the way Justin had described in his note. Also, Justin had never gone to Jacob's house, but he did kill Sam, Leo, and Henry. All of this happened before he committed suicide. The most terrifying thing about this story for me is that I don't dream. Almost never. The dreams I do remember in my life can be counted on the fingers of one hand, maybe two if I'm not exaggerating, but they were very simple yet impactful. One of them is the dream that led me to write this. And with that, the story ends. I hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you all for making it this far. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the bell icon to get all the new updates.